Downs Gaming and Hotel, we work extremely hard to make your experience here convenient, safe, and fun.
I love Batavia Downs Gaming.
We love it!
I love Batavia Downs Gaming.
We don't just like Batavia Downs Gaming, we love Batavia Downs Gaming.
Batavia Downs Gaming, Hotel, and Racetrack. We not only want you to like coming here, we want you to love coming here.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports podcast, where we are here to wrestle with emotion. I'm bringing in the whole group. We got a lot to get into. Let's get right into it. The Prophet, Rob Ryan, the head of the table, Michael Partham, and joining us for this first edition of the show after WrestleMania, the voice of reason, Ernie Green. How are we doing tonight, Rob Ryan? How are we feeling?
You know, we're feeling great, coming off a a good WrestleMania, not a great WrestleMania. I think we can all agree there. And then coming off one of the better Raw after Manias that we've had in a while. So, just feeling pretty good right now.
How about you,
I would
Partham?
say a very bipolar WrestleMania. It was almost a mirror image of each other. I think we touched on night one, obviously, in our night two preview, but it's almost like we had a very up and down night one with a very great main event, and we had a very intense night two, from the bottom all the way to the top, and then a very mid to just disappointing and I would say even infuriating main event for multiple reasons, which we will get into. Ernie, how you feeling?
I'm going to get into later, I'm sure, why the main event, and we talked about the politics and whatnot. And also, in my opinion, why the Raw after Mania was one of the better Raw after Manias since the pandemic, to be honest with you. I think the last real Raw after Mania was 2018. I think that it's indicative of what's going on in WWE at the time, and I think we're going to discuss that further in this episode. So I'm just going to stop there.
Well, let's get into it, Ernie. Let's start with the main event of night two. Let's get into it, because we said you guys talked a little bit about night one main event in the night two preview, but we'll get into more of the repercussions, I guess, of the night one main event leading into the Raw after Mania and everything. Let's touch on that afterwards. Let's start with Cody versus Cena. And Ernie, I want to hear your thoughts here on how this main event kind of ended up. Just honestly, let's not get into all that. How did you feel? Let's go around the horn and start with Ernie. How did you feel about the main event? Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it for parts and then not enjoy the finish? How was your experience of it? And then Ernie, and then around the horn.
I thought the match up until the finish was fine. I thought it was a very good back and forth match. I think Cena portrayed the person that he wants to be right now as a heel, a guy who's going to do stall tactics, a guy who really wants, his character wants to make wrestling not fun anymore. So he really had a lot of flash and dash. It was very basic, very dry. And I think that's what his character is. I think he played that well. I think Cody played his part well. The ending made no freaking sense in so many levels. I'm not sure how much time I have. Why are you allowed to knock the referee out of the ring without a disqualification? With that, when there's a disqualification match, that made zero sense. Why did he why was he not disqualified when he entered the ring to begin before that, when he got the crossroads? A lot of things, why did Cody hesitate using the belt when he gave a crossroads to KO on a chair at Saturday night's main event? There was just a lot of plot holes, and that made no sense. And I'm going to give the current regime a mulligan on that, because I think it's indicative of a power struggle between Triple H and The Rock. And this entire thing is a power struggle between Triple H and The Rock. And I kind of felt the Raw after Mania was fantastic. And it was Triple H's way of saying F you to people who might have a problem with him or are playing politics with him, because this is I felt the Raw after Mania was fantastic from start to finish. It was a 2.5, 3 hour show that felt like 45 minutes. Boom, 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 fast. Everything made sense. Debuts, turns, everything was great. It was a very good, fast-paced episode. And I think that was kind of his way of saying F you to people. This is what I can do if you just let me take charge and stay out of my way, and F you if you're in my way. That was just kind of how I felt about everything in general, because The Rock coming to Elimination Chamber for no reason made no sense, especially when they haven't even touched on yet, a month and a half later, why John Cena has turned and aligned with The Rock. Is he even aligned with The Rock anymore? Or was it just one night? there's so many questions that had they just not did it, I think the main event of WrestleMania would have been fine, but Rock stuck his nose in and it made the product worse. And I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. And one other quick thing, Vince McMahon is a scumbag on every level possible as a human being. There's no excuse for anything he's done. He's a piece of shit human being. However, notice that The Rock never acted a fool when Vince McMahon was in charge, because if he would have done this, Vince would have put a stop to it right away and say, no, this is what we are doing, period, knock it off. As soon as like the weird TKO suits who really don't know much about pro wrestling got involved and they think The Rock is no all end all of pro wrestling, he started with his political bullshit. And from what I understand, you guys are way more into movies with me. He does this all the time with movie studios. I think Partham and Jake and Rob can get into that more, but this is a recurring thing with him, and he makes everything worse. And now let's touch pro wrestling.
Yeah, we can go on and on about Dwayne all night. I think we have each have our personal grievance with him, but I think we all have the same attitude here. Is we want Dwayne to listen up here.
Listen up, Dwayne, you bald fraud.
I mean, what really pisses me off about this whole thing is that you go back to Hell in the Cell, or no, Bad Blood, and Hell in the Cell was part of that. I'm mixing the two together. He comes out and he does the 3-2-1, the throat slash, and we think, oh, okay, he's like 10 steps ahead of us. And that's what he was telling us in NXT after the Netflix debut, where he comes out and he's all buddy-buddy with Cody. He's shaking hands and kissing babies and all that stuff with the suits at ringside. And he goes on NXT and he says, hey, know your role and shut your mouth. The Rock is 20 steps ahead of you. Enjoy the ride the Rock is taking you on. Well, if this is all the ride the Rock is taking us on, it looks like a ride that basically broke down after, 2 minutes or so, and we didn't even get to the finish. I mean, if nothing else, just have John Cena go out there among his 2 or 3 promos, where he blames the fans and he talks crap about Cody Rhodes. Just explain, hey, The Rock. I told The Rock, hey, if he doesn't accept your offer, then I'm going to take him out for you. And you know what? You can just hang back, and I've got this from here on out. And that would have been fine. Although we still could have done without Travis Scott taking 10 whole centuries to saunter his way down to the freaking ring. And not to mention the fact that Travis Scott and The Rock were associated with each other, arm in arm, at Elimination Chamber. You see one, you think the other is going to be there. And one more thing, if you seen that finally The Rock has come back to WrestleMania shirt, my understanding is that its shirt is from last year's WrestleMania build, where I think they had a show in Vegas that The Rock showed up in. I can't remember the exact date, but I think that's a leftover shirt from last year. But still, they put that in the WWE shops in Vegas this year, so it was pretty much the Price is Right fail horn for anybody that bought that particular shirt. So many things wrong. I mean, I'm guilty of this too, saying, well, it was a bad main event, it was a bad finish to a main event, and that's what John Cena wanted. Well, there's a difference between John Cena going out there and not giving us what we want and just bad writing. And let's not confuse the two and just try and excuse this as part of John Cena's overall scheme to ruin pro wrestling. But I probably could have like 10 or more thoughts on this. But Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good match up until all the shenanigans happened. I think you had to expect the ref knockdown. I mean, Cena's a heel. That happens in every heel championship match. And then Travis Scott, like Parthy just mentioned, everyone thought once Travis Scott and how slow he was moving, you all thought it was going to hit, or even it was that same remix he had back in Elimination Chamber with Fiend. Whatever. Travis Scott was not needed whatsoever. I do think I would disagree with where Ernie was saying about it made no sense why Cody wouldn't use the title, and then he mentioned the KO thing. I think that one kind of did make sense, because with KO, he got the pile driver earlier on in that story, so he kind of had to pay him back there. And then for this one, it was more so the way it goes back to the promo that Cena cut on Friday, saying that you're not good enough. You're not good enough. That you don't have what it takes. Winners. I forgot what it was. Winners. I forgot his quote. Whatever it was.
I don't remember. But he said something like, remember the end was like, I don't have to out wrestle you to win the title or something like that.
Yes, like so he was trying to say that you don't have what it takes to like do the bad things to stay champion. So that I think that kind of made sense. And then obviously Cena using it just goes with his heel character. So I think I think what screwed everything up was the Travis Scott, and then obviously the whole build with Dwayne. He's a prick who just wants to have the full attention. I mean, we've seen that his whole career pretty much. I know you guys have already mentioned how nothing makes sense. Going all the way back to Bad Blood with the 3 fingers. We all thought it was something, and then it was nothing. And then you get to Elimination Chamber, and he puts up 2 fingers. We're like, maybe this is something. Once again, a nothing story that's still not addressed, and it will never get addressed. Just like how I even forget, not even Bad Blood. It goes all the way back to the Raw after Mania last year with the gift that he gave Cody that we still and we'll never know what it is. And it's going to happen again next year, because next year it's going to be back to the whole Rock Roman. We're getting that next year. Rock's never going to go away unless Triple H grows some balls and fights back against TKO, which I don't think you can do as who he is in this position right now. But unfortunately, it was a bad ending. However, I am interested to see what Cena does as the last real champion. He has vowed to ruin pro wrestling. So I'm intrigued.
Two things. The Rock's never going to go away until he finally gets a hit movie once again. And one last thing that really bothered me, and you can see my reaction on the Trainwreck live stream that we did for the main event. At one point, when Travis Scott comes to the ring and Cena is holding Cody and he's asking Travis Scott to hit him, what was Cena trying to do? Get himself disqualified? Fail in his quest to win a 17th title? Was he expecting The Rock to pop out of nowhere and say, "No, ref, this match continues until I say it ends"?
You count, you're fired.
Right.
Yeah. No, you guys make a lot of great points there, and there's a lot of issues with the whole story around this. Dwayne's whole involvement in it, the booking leading up to it, the Triple H, Dwayne, whatever. I just want to talk specifically about the booking of the match, though, because I pretty much agree with you guys. I thought it was a good match until Fiend Man showed up and did it was honestly like one of those entrances, if you ever played the video games. Like when someone interferes, they really stand there and don't move for a while, and then they run. He kind of just did the video game entrance. It was the most absurd thing I've ever seen. I was like, it was like an out of body experience hearing Fiend and just seeing him kind of stand there while the main event of WrestleMania was going on. Like if it's another pay-per-view main event, fine, it's whatever. But I'd probably still be mad, but not as mad. If it's another just show or match on the card, it's another thing. The main event of night 2 of Sunday of WrestleMania, and they did it. It wouldn't have been my idea, but here's the thing. This is why I want to come back to the booking of this match, because it reminded me. I think we have to blame Mr. Cena here a lot for this too, for how this was booked. Go back to the 2015 SummerSlam, the SummerSlam. Remember that match? Seth Rollins for both titles. That match
Isn't
was
that where
awesome.
Jon Stewart interfered to cost him the match?
That is exactly the match. And it
Dewey's
was for both titles. It was for both titles. It was an amazing match until Jon Stewart randomly runs out very slowly and awkwardly places the chair down for them and whatever he did with the chair. I tried to block it out of my memory because I loved that match up until that moment. And the whole crux of that was, Cena, what he didn't want, he retconned it the next night. It was like, I didn't want Cena to pass Ric Flair and he didn't deserve it, blah, whatever bullshit they made up. I say all that to say that was definitely John Cena's idea. He was definitely heavily involved in the booking of that match. And it felt eerily similar when Mr. Travis Scott started sauntering his way down to the ring in the middle of this main event John Cena match at a top 2 pay-per-view in the company. And I'm like, oh man. And it just sucked the life out of it for me because I really was enjoying it too. And it wasn't they were getting a lot out of a little too. Like the atmosphere, people were eating it up. It was just punches and people were just in it. It was old school. It was great stuff. And then I don't like the WWE trend of we have to have some crazy run in the end of our main events. Sometimes you just have to have a wrestling match. And I think we really just wanted, even if Cena cheats to win in that match and there's a ref bump and he just used the belt to win and does it, it's not like an electric ending to WrestleMania, but it's a good wrestling ending. It's a good show for a heel. You could do a beatdown after or something where he takes it out on whatever. There's other ways to get there. It just felt cheap. It's not going to when we look back on this, it's not going to get looked on kindly. We're going to be making fun of this more than we're going to be that was awesome, in my opinion.
And also to add to that is this isn't just some random title change. This is the guy in kayfabe, at least, because you depending on how many titles you pick Flair had. WWE says 16. It's really 20, but whatever. But this is in WWE world a historical moment that they completely pissed over themselves all about, which is just even makes it more wild to me. Like if this happened at a regular, if John Cena won his 4th title, we'd be like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like lame ending, but whatever. This is how he won his record-breaking title. I don't even care about cheating because the cheating part was fine, but that he won it in such a lame ending just did nobody favors.
Yeah, but I think that's how it goes with the character, to be honest. He wants to ruin pro wrestling. You do that with booking something like that.
But he could have done
that.
Was
what I was just going to say.
I think nobody wanted Travis Scott.
Yes, I agree.
So that's what I was going to say. The next part of this is the booking part of this conversation that we have to have about it, because now that's the next point I wanted to get to, Ernie, is because now etched in all of time is John Cena coming out with the Orange Cassidy black and white entrance, stripped down to absolutely nothing, just his name, no fanfare, no nothing.
I have to play something for this. Oh no, the Prophet's failing. The Prophet. Never mind.
Okay, you can find it again in a couple seconds, whatever. The point being that, like, the whole heel turn, supposedly we're supposed to believe, if we're supposed to believe how the Dwayne side, and we're taking all these things into it, and the Meltzer story, like all the different sides of this. If it was them if the story is they wanted to turn Cody and Cena was like the option to keep Rock happy, I guess that's kind of right. Is that like the narrative? Like that's kind of what I spun out of everything coming together. Is anybody else followed along enough? Maybe I'm completely off on that. That's kind of like that's the sentiment that I had seen, was that like Rock wanted Cody in real life and in kayfabe, and they kind of used the Cena thing, and Cena was okay with it and everything. I just think maybe John Cena should have won the 17th world title when he was John Cena, and not this weird heel version of John Cena, because he's not going to finish his career like this. And we're going to look back, and when you explain it, like when I explain this to like my kids someday in the future, it's going to be like, oh yeah, John Cena won his 17th title. It was really weird. Like The Rock wanted someone to sell his soul, but then The Rock disappeared, and then Travis Scott came out and he helped them. And then he kind of just like, it's just like, you would think you would want that story to be John Cena triumphantly did this, and it would, it's weird. It's a weird vibe for me.
You know what our champion would say to that?
You get nothing.
The Prophet always prevails.
I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know if it's good business.
If you didn't play it, I would have myself. So John Cena comes out and he's basically stripping down everything. And now he's said that he'll retire once he loses a step. And obviously, he works a deliberate heel style. He does his 5 moves of doom with like a lot of time in between them to sort of not get the crowd going into it. Which, by the way, I want to comment on the crowd, the Rock Hogan-esque crowd that basically reversed, the roles from Friday Night SmackDown onward. I'm pretty sure that those were people that, and regardless of whether they purchased their tickets before or after the Cena heel turn, those were a lot of diehard John Cena fans that were just there to root on John Cena, and the narrative be damned. Like you saw, there was the floor seats, and then there was the back floor seats, and there seemed to be a large contingent, like 3-4 rows deep, of just Cena fans just on their feet, just cheering on John Cena. And I think there's a lot of those people that were in the arena on SmackDown and on Raw, because it took a little while for Cena to get some booze going on the Raw after Mania. I think there was just a lot of John Cena marks that were just going to buy tickets to WrestleMania and root on John Cena for a 17th title, no matter what he said about them.
Yeah, but I think that always happens in these like big cities that don't get shows a lot. They always like to do those reverse fans where it's kind of the opposite of typical wrestling. And I think that kind of happened this weekend in Vegas, because it wasn't just with the Cena and Cody. It was almost every heel was getting cheered. So I think it was kind of one of those reverse cities that kind of happens sometimes. But I do agree that part of it was Cena fans.
Yeah. And to add to that, WWE X surprised when they literally just released a documentary like a week ago about the last WrestleMania in Vegas, WrestleMania 9, and how weird and awkward it was. And then there were some weird and awkward moments with the crowd, and they acted surprised. Like, You literally just put out a documentary about how this happened the very last time you had a WrestleMania in this very city.
I didn't think a lot of. I think on Monday night, certainly, they were encouraging Becky to hit Lyra Valkyria one more time, which was sort of weird. It did have. I think they were flashing back to the last time Becky turned heel, and everybody was just encouraging her to destroy Charlotte Flair. But I think there was a genuine sentiment for Dominic Mysterio to win his Intercontinental title because he's been doing some great work, and even though he's getting booed out of the building everywhere else. I think people could sense where the story was going, and that's why they were cheering for Dominic. Not so much because he was a heel, but because he's just been pretty good, really good at his craft so far.
Yeah.
I feel like they also were like wanting yes,
they certainly
I
didn't
agree.
cheer Charlotte Flair.
But like Sammy, like when Sammy was like had that little like moment of standing behind him, they were like cheering, like, "Oh, do it, do it, do it!" Like
they were anticipating. I don't know if they necessarily. There's so many heel turns going on. Let's not turn Sammy heel. He's the Mick Foley babyface. He's supposed to be winning the next year's Royal Rumble, at least in all our minds, because it's in Saudi.
Speaking of, let's get to it.
Hmm.
This is as a diehard Seth Rollins fan. Been a great week. I can't lie. Saturday night. I didn't watch. This is very impressive, guys. I can't lie. I'm going to give myself credit here. I did not know any spoiler of WrestleMania until I watched the show at noon Central Time on my phone on my way home from Wisconsin. I avoided our group chat. The only thing I did see one thing. I saw that Jay won, and I was like, okay, I knew that was like the most obvious. Like that was no spoiler. That was a given. So I'm sitting there in the car just waiting. And I'm just one of the best wrestling moments. If you want to talk about that won't be remembered, Cena and Cody won't be remembered well in history, at least we have this as a main event, because this, I think, has the potential to go down as a transformative moment for Seth Rollins in his career, honestly. And Heyman kind of outlined it on the McAfee show a lot, where, just the kind of position that he's in. He's a multi-time champion who has really needed. He's gone through. He's done a lot, guys, and he's been a good soldier for a lot of things. But I think, all seen that there's just something that you can tap into with him on the serious side that he really has gone away from, and Heyman's going to bring that back out. We saw a little bit of it Monday night. I'm just excited to see what goes from after that. But Rob, how are you feeling about the Angle Monday and everything happened there? But just after the match too, like, were you shocked? Like, were you kind of because we all kind of thought Rollins might do it, but then it was like, oh, is it too obvious that that's going to happen? So how did you feel when you were watching the match, and then how'd you feel Monday?
Are you asking the Prophet if he's shocked? The Prophet gets his name by predicting these things. I said it a week ago in my illustrious return to the show that Seth was going to align with Heyman. So I was not shocked, but I was excited because that was, what my good friend Roman Reigns would say.
They call this cinema.
It was just beautiful storytelling with the whole slide the chair, thinking about holding the chair, Paul Heyman with Roman and Punk right there. Then sliding it to Punk, obviously the nut shot to him, and then obviously another storytelling with Heyman then seeing Seth coming up and screaming at Roman, like, Roman, here's your chance to get another back chair shot in the back of the man who turned on you 11 years ago or whatever it was. So that was beautiful. And then going into Monday night, there was rumors that there was more people, like obviously even on the McAfee show, Boston Connor guy, that guy sucks, to be honest. Let's all agree there. Boston Connor sucks. But he did was alluding to like, hey, you're gonna need backup. Like, now you have two enemies. You don't have just one. You got Punk and you have Roman. Like, you're gonna need some backup. Like, and Heyman's like, don't you worry. Like, I got a plan. And then obviously comes Monday night. Here comes both Punk and Roman. Obviously Punk gets taken out, but Roman has that clear. He gets Superman punch and he has a clear spear. And then here comes part of his backup, Braun Breaker. Obviously more storytelling. This has been going on ever since Braun made his episode. Yeah, so it's been going on for a while. So we kind of had a feeling. It was just all great storytelling, and I think there's more. I think we talked about in the chat. There's been rumors going around that this could be like an Evolution 2.0. So I think there's more to come with this new Heyman crew, Evolution 2.0, whatever they call themselves.
Yeah, and you would think that this is coming out of nowhere, but if you go back all the way to, I think the date is October 10th, 2023, Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker had a little bit of interaction while Braun was still down in NXT, mind you, and Paul's basically hyping him up. He knows he's the next big thing, essentially. So even though it seemed to, we didn't really get much hints out of Paul saying on the show, I need some extra guys. Braun Breaker makes perfect sense because he's the kind of destroyer that Paul Heyman likes to align himself with, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, what have you. And I think, now you have, because a lot of these groups, the bloodline essentially ended with that main event with Paul Heyman, getting a little bit extra of Roman Reigns on that low blow there, by the way. But that essentially ended the bloodline story. I mean, there's a loose affiliation with Sami Zayn and the Usos, of course. And, Roman can call upon them if he really needs help, if he's humble enough to do. But anyway, there's no more bloodline. The Judgment Day is sort of, whittling down to its end because we know that Dom and Finn are essentially going to come to blows. The White Six aren't around. There's no more Final Testament for whatever good those guys are. So we need a new big faction to be the threat either on SmackDown or Raw. And this is going to be for the Raw one. They're going to have to figure out what they're going to do on SmackDown. Maybe it's just Cena, of course. He's just the big bad who's going to have the title over there.
Cena's going to Raw.
Yeah, well, see, they already have a champion for Raw. Cena's got to go to SmackDown. But anyway,
the draft.
They'll figure it out, I guess. But yeah, this is going to be the new big bad group to go in for the baby faces to try to come together and conquer. Maybe it'll culminate in it's a little farther down the road, but they just announced War Games. Well, not War Games. They announced Survivor Series. They haven't labeled it War Games just yet, but they've announced Survivor Series for San Diego down in a few months. And I think that the Paul Heyman's faction, whatever they're going to be called, is going to factor into that. I can predict. I think we can all predict that.
Yeah, with Roman and Punk on the other side somehow.
Yes. Parthy took us back to 2023. I'm going to take you back to 1991 with the original formation of the Dangerous Alliance, which was originally supposed to be Arn Anderson, Ravishing Rick Rude, Larry Zbyszko, and Beautiful Bobby Eaton, one of my all-time favorites. And Paul Heyman politic, because Paul Heyman thinks in a faction you should always have, like Evolution, one or two young guys who are the future of the business. And Paul Heyman politic for a guy to become part of the Dangerous Alliance, who he predicted would be the future of the business. You might have heard of him. His name was Stunning Steve Austin.
Yep. He politicked that right to Dusty Rhodes.
Enough said. Yeah. If you ever go online and find the talk that he had with Austin about that when he does the Dusty imitation.
Oh yeah, I go to that all the time.
Yes, it is hilarious, and I highly suggest it. So I am interested. I think there's going to be a faction, and I am interested in seeing who Paul Heyman handpicks to be the future. If it's just Braun, okay, Braun Breaker is the future. I think he has somebody in NXT or someone on an unheralded person on the roster right now that he is going to take to absolute greatness, and we might not know who it is yet, because in 1991, Stunning Steve Austin was just another wrestler. And there might be just another wrestler right now who's going to be moved into prominence, whether it's someone who in my opinion, has been underutilized since Vince left, as Austin Theory or Obafemi in NXT, or Trick Williams or Carmelo Hayes. There's going to be somebody that's going to be brought and lifted into another stratosphere just by being aligned with Paul Heyman. And it might be Braun, and that's fine, because Braun is absolutely a future champion. And and he's one of the favorites to win either Money in the Bank and or the Royal Rumble. But I think there's going to be someone even younger and that's going to be a part of that faction that's really going to take off thanks to Paul Heyman.
I've got two names for you guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think there's two guys, they just are a tag team, lost the NXT tag team titles, both have a connection to Seth Rollins. I think Nathan Frazier and Axiom, or at the very least, Nathan Frazier could be the guy you're talking about, Ernie. Nathan Frazier trained with Seth Rollins. I'm pretty sure I've heard Heyman talk about him as being one of the most promising prospects in NXT. Feels like a guy who could be the perfect young guy coming in imagine him and Breaker tag together, the athleticism and high flying he has compared with Braun's just explosiveness and the things they could do with a group and trios with Seth too, and 6-man matches. Like there's a lot of possibilities there. That's the name I'm looking at here. I don't know if Axiom joins. Oh Jesus, my cats just lost their minds. Oh my God.
One name I've heard bandied about is Austin Theory, whereas Braun Breaker is in the Batista role. Austin Theory can be the new Randy Orton, so to speak. But don't they have? Isn't there like a kid in NXT? I forget his name. That's always compared to. He looks a lot like Randy Orton.
I know you're talking about, but I can't think of the name. But
right,
I've seen one Randy Orton replacement. Ernie mentioned him, Carmelo Hayes. Which I mean, I know they've had Melo and Braun has had their rivalry. We know they can work together. We saw it in NXT. I think that could be pretty good, but I don't know if you can have both of them in like the same. I mean, obviously, Evolution had 3 of the biggest people, but I don't know if you can do it again in like this time. I think you should. I don't know, but I think that could be interesting, possibly. But I do think, from what like Ernie was saying and Jake was saying, I think they go younger, and I think they find someone in NXT. I think it's too early, but obviously there's a big one that just came there. I don't think he obviously gets pushed yet. But there's obviously other ones. So obviously we'll see who.
I just remembered one name that's been also talked about, although it would be kind of a bit of a whiplash because he just went to SmackDown with the window transfer window over like the winter, and now they have to go back to Raw in order to do it. But he'd fit in like a glove. And he also has issues with both CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Can you guess who I'm talking about?
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre. I mean, him and Seth have had their rivalry, but it's never really been personal. It's more professional. And they've been trying to talk to each other about, how they've had their problems with each other, but it's because they don't think the other is, thinking straight or is a fool for, doing this or that. But now that Seth is fully in his, I'm going to make Roman's life miserable. I'm going to make Punk's life miserable. Drew can come in and say, hey, I'm all for that.
Now here's a question that I was just coming to think back. I keep referring to Evolution. Obviously we have our Batista, we have our Triple H. Do they find 2 other guys? I know Jake was mentioning 2 younger guys. Are they trying to say that Ric Flair, Heyman is the Ric Flair, even if he's not going to wrestle, and they just find 2 younger guys as well? Like, or do they find another veteran to add? I don't know.
Yeah, Heyman ain't taking any bumps, so
yeah, obviously.
Seth isn't. I mean, at this point, Seth is an all-time great. Is he an all-time great to Ric Flair's level? No, nobody is. But I mean, I could see him being in that type of role, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, be the.
No, they're saying Paul Heyman is the Ric Flair, essentially.
Or he could be the Triple H, you know what I'm saying? So it's,
I think Rollins.
But that's why this is so intriguing, because this could go so many levels, so many different. This can go so many different ways, and I think every single person's idea that we had right now is just a fantastic idea. So I think this is very intriguing for once.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff. I think that we've seen enough from Paul Heyman, and then in these situations that there's gonna be something interesting out of it. Whether it could be something, it could be a guy that we haven't even mentioned so far. Any other thoughts on this, Rob? You got anything else?
I'm good.
Okay, I thought you had one other thing there. Anything else WrestleMania wise? Let's wrap up WrestleMania, and then what was for Rob? What was the one other thing out of this show that what's the one thing on the show that was like your favorite moment, or what's one of the things you're looking forward to coming out of Mania on TV going forward?
That's a good question. I think it's interesting I wanted to see where Tiffy goes. It's not really an interesting thing coming out of WrestleMania, but I really interested to see where she goes. I think obviously we know where Io's not done with, the whole Rhea and Bianca thing. But I'm interested to see where Tiffy goes, because obviously Cena, we're going to Orton. Jay, I don't know. Actually, no, I'm not going to say WrestleMania. I'm going to say the most interesting thing. Raw after Mania is still WrestleMania weekend. I'm going to say the whole Gunther. What happens with that? There's obviously something going on with the McAfee. They wouldn't do that whole thing if McAfee didn't have a say in it. But I think that's pretty good. You know, it's pretty funny. I was watching McAfee afterwards, and they were saying about how his crew jumped over, there was like talks about it, and people were worried that like once they jumped over, fans would follow. So like it was pretty interesting to think about that. Like I didn't even think of that in the moment, but like afterwards, I was like, yeah, wow, that could have been a really bad situation.
Good point. I've heard speculation that this is possibly a way to get Goldberg his last match. That maybe Pat McAfee goes up against Gunther himself, and of course he gets choked out again, but he still wants to get back at Gunther, so he brings in Goldberg. But I just hope that they don't have Goldberg going over Gunther. Goldberg's got to do the honors in his last match if he wants one last match. Interesting thing coming out of WrestleMania. Jacob Fatu is now the new United States champion, and he still has his issues, conflicts with Solo. And now it's going to be more heightened because it's just him and Solo. Tama Tonga is now on the injury shelf for a while, along with his partner Tonga Loa. So the former Gorillas of Destiny are out indefinitely as it is. I wonder if this is going to be, and I was speculating about Hikuleo or Zilla Fatu finally debuting either at WrestleMania or the Raw after WrestleMania. Maybe they'll have them in the SmackDown after WrestleMania, especially now that the remnants of the Temu bloodline are basically down to the two main guys, which they could just run with that, I guess, all the way to SummerSlam. But it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Jacob Fatu's United States Championship run. The other interesting thing is the whole Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch situation where Bayley was basically left on the sideline the day before their match and basically in the pre-show of WrestleMania, which and all Triple H had to say about that is, well, Bayley's a pro. She'll get through this. And I mean, there were two or three things that Triple H, as much as we appreciate his booking better than Vince McMahon in the last couple of years or so, this is one that didn't really stick with me. I don't know if that was good thinking, Triple H.
Good thinking, Triple H. Real creative.
So, and especially people were speculating when Bayley and Lyra paired together and won the tag titles. Well, is this going to be a reason for Bayley to turn heel when she gets back? But instead, they turn Becky heel, and we're going to have to see where they go from there. I think it's going to be Becky going after Lyra's Intercontinental title. Maybe Bayley challenges her somewhere along the way, and then Lyra will get it back possibly at SummerSlam, I think, down the line. And hey, how about Karrion or Killer Cross going off on one of the post shows, I think, and blurring the lines a little bit, calling out the suits, and I don't know. Are they going in a different direction here, or is he winding down his time at WWE and he's just saying, "F it, give me a microphone and I just want to go off"?
I think they're gonna make it a shoot. I mean, I think it was real in the moment. We saw that from what the hell am I blank? Why am I Scarlett? Like she was like, you could see like about the 2-minute mark, she started realizing this isn't Karrion Cross speaking right now. But then you saw him multiple times Monday night, so I think they're turning this into something. And Michael Cole's mentioned it on McAfee, and he mentioned it on Monday night. So I think they're turning it into a shoot.
So first off, were the suits worried that the fans are going to jump and help Pat McAfee, or were they worried that they were going to help Gunther? Because judging by all the people are sick of Pat McAfee. I read all these people who are sick of Pat McAfee. So were they worried they were going to help Gunther? Because there's been a lot of people who are disenchanted with Pat McAfee at the moment.
Right, people are joking that Gunther's a new national hero now.
Yes, that would have been hilarious if they jumped, but they were start pounding on Pat McAfee instead of Gunther. That would have been hilarious. But
how do we know that Pat McAfee's crew wasn't just trying to join Gunther on the beatdown of Pat McAfee?
Now that'd be hilarious.
That'd be a storyline.
The thing that I was most, I didn't add this to the last part, but other than Io, I was pleasantly surprised that Io retained the title. I think she's one of the most underrated talents in pro wrestling throughout the entire world. And she's been that way for the majority of her career, at least in North America, if not ever. But number two, just like Paul Heyman is so much better as a heel. Seth Rollins is so much better as a heel. It is going to be, I mean, I hate using this word because it's overused, but I just think this whole angle, this whole faction is going to be absolute cinema. And it might be as good, if not better, than the Bloodline storyline because Paul Heyman is directly involved and Seth Rollins is that good. And I just think it's going to be, and Roman will still be involved and Punk will still be involved. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
I agree, man. I agree on all that sentiments. Yeah, my favorite thing was the best match. My favorite thing, the Io Bianca Rhea match. I was most excited for it going in. and they knocked it the hell out of the park. That was awesome. Everything you said about Io Ernie, I echo that sentiment. I think she's one of the best just wrestlers on the planet. She's incredible. Like the connection she can get. The match she had on Monday, though, to like having that match with Beck Hair, that moment, like the crowd, like recognizing the moment in Vegas and seeing that, I was excited. Like there's very few things that can happen on wrestling TV that get me like giddy. And I was so excited for that match in the moment, just like locked in for it. She's incredible. I'm so happy that she kept that championship. Same thing with Tiffy, though. Like you said, Rob, I'm excited to see the direction they go with her now. It's just like all the talk going into Mania was like, is she a real champ? She won with the money and on talk, on kayfabe, on TV. Like, is she, you know, there's speculation that she's not an actual champion. Whatever. She beat Charlotte now. Like, let her go. Let's see what like a program with her as the actual A-star talent of this division is, because I'm intrigued. She's awesome. That match was really fun too.
I'm curious to see if Charlotte even stays on television. Like, I know she just got back, but her, you know, the cliche is she only ever comes back to be champion or work in a championship angle or be involved in a in contention for a championship. Well, now that's gone. So what's left for her? Like,
maybe she ends up back to Raw now, because she did just show up at the Rumble and then pick Tiffy. So I don't know if she ever is technically assigned to a brand or anything either. So she could just show up on Raw and like attack Io next Monday for all we know, and we'll all be pissed off about it.
I know it's a joke about how the whole thing, she only comes back for championships, but being serious, I can't remember the last time she was on WWE TV and not in a championship storyline.
Exactly.
Like, I seriously
always cashing in her Charlotte in the Bank.
I don't think she's ever. I mean,
I don't know if she's ever been in one.
Have you?
Like,
I do not. I
tag titles or a WWE title. I don't think she. I really don't.
No.
Maybe very, very early in her WWE career, like, you know, but that was it. Since like 26, since she won the belt before Mania in 2016, I don't think she has not been in the championship program since then.
The initial angle was Team PCB or whatever. It was Paige, Charlotte, Becky. That wasn't for a title. So I guess that's literally the last thing I can remember, because she gets the women's title and then it's her and Sasha. Like, the reason she's at 14 or whatever is because her and Sasha went back and forth like 9 times.
They would go every week.
Ridiculous.
They would
every week.
Every freaking week.
And they're just racking. And then every time I hear Charlotte get announced as like a 5-time, 6-time champion, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, she was 4-time a month ago. This is crazy.
Well, the good news is, as we saw with the battle between Io and Stephanie Vaquer that we got treated to on Monday Night Raw, and all the other women's stars and up-and-coming stars that got involved in that in the end, which we knew was going to be a schmoz. They didn't want to have one champion beat another at this stage unless it's like Crown Jewel or whatever. But the women's division is very healthy from the main rosters down to NXT. It doesn't need Charlotte Flair as much as she might want it.
And there's still a lot in the wings that haven't really, like Alexa Bliss, like where she hasn't been around. Like, well,
supposedly Uncle Howdy's on the shelf, and so they're keeping the whole Wyatt Six on the shelf, and they're putting that whole Alexa Bliss, you know, joining with them again until their leader essentially gets better and they can pick that up again, I guess.
That's fair.
You know what's wild is Flair and Cena had like 20 plus years career to get the 16 and 17 title reigns, and Charlotte won like 14 in like a 6 or 7 year span. It's insane.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's gonna be a tough.
And was any one of them memorable? Was any feud, or you could say 1 or 2 matches, like her last match with Rhea at WrestleMania was at least a decent match, but was there anything memorable about any of these feuds that she's had?
Sasha.
They definitely could have spread the love out a little bit more.
Yeah, the triple threat at 32 was very good. Her, Becky, and Sasha. That was a very good match. But I mean,
yes,
I remember that because I was there, not because it was like this great historic match.
That was like the highlight. That had to be the highlight of your night in that 9-hour affair. I mean, there wasn't a lot of highlights. I guess Shane and Taker's that night, isn't it? At 32.
Honestly, right? I don't remember much else of it. So what does that tell you?
32 ended with Triple H versus Roman. So
that match was like 50 minutes at midnight. It was ridiculous, bro. I was
those WrestleManias were brutal.
We're at minute 30 and they're like in a lockup at some point, and I'm like, guys, Triple H, and you know with Triple H, like, it's gonna be long. But I'm like, how do you guys not realize it's 7 hours, 8 hours? And that's why we're in 2 nights. We got Slick L chiming in, voice of reason. You got fans, Ernie. You got fans out here. Yeah, the women's division's in a great spot going forward.
Wait, what did
they
Slick
all
say?
showed out.
Slick put me over. That's a first.
He just put you over, bro. He's just hyped up. Any other thoughts on Mania? Any last thoughts?
I'm curious to see what they do with El Grande Americano now that they bought AAA, because he'd be a great heel to put down there.
I need him to be AAA mega champion. It needs to happen.
As opposed to the current mega champion, which I'm pretty sure that if WWE has their druthers, they'll probably move on from him in a short.
I would hope so. I hope he's not on TV anytime soon. Dynamite tonight. Let's get into Dynamite, and then we'll get out of here. The main event: Chris Statlander, Jamie Hayter, Partha. What do you think they do here? Do you think do you think they go with Old Reliable and go back to Jamie, or is it a Statlander time to put her in this spot against Mercedes?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Jamie Hayter never lost the championship, or was that somebody else I'm forgetting?
Well,
Thunder Rosa.
She did lose it. She lost it when she lost to Tony. She did go out and got pinned, but it was when we all knew she was hurt. Like she was wrestled hurt to lose the title. So not really. She didn't really defend it.
But they really haven't given her any momentum since she, re-debuted at the pre-show of All In last year. But she's still fairly popular. I'd put her over Chris, but I have a feeling they're going to go with Chris Statlander to face Mercedes Moné in the final of the Owen Hart.
I'm in complete alignment with you. I would pick Jamie because I think Statlander. There's some stuff you can still do with Willow, and I think Jamie's awesome. They haven't given her that push, and this would be the time. But I think it's going to be Stat. I know that Ernie's looking forward to this one. Speedball and Kevin Knight versus the Young Bucks back on TV, right, Ernie? You're gonna be locked in.
I mean,
you got baseball, so I know you'll go back and watch it later on Max. That's
I'm gonna not play my game, and I'm gonna watch it on my Max.
he's gonna say, guys.
I mean, I don't.
Someone go to the outfield for me. The Bucks are on.
You know what I have to say to that one? Wrong one,
brother.
You fucking mark.
Yo, the intern's off his game today. I gotta fire him.
Hey, speaking of the Young Bucks, I teased this, I believe, maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago. The whole storyline involving them, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. I have a feeling that the Bucks are going to try to find a way to get Hangman pissed at Swerve again. I have a feeling that they're going to try and frame him. That they're going to make it look like there's been another home invasion, like another T-shirt's been left in the crib, and maybe some other, incriminating evidence, like, say, I don't know, who's Swerve's guy again? The guy,
Prince Nana.
Prince Nana. He has that coffee cup. Maybe he leaves that coffee cup line. That coffee cup has been left around, and I don't think they're going to set Hangman's house on fire, because that would be too much, especially with, if his son's in. They're not going to do that. Maybe they'll set something else on fire, like his car or something. But the Bucks are going to make it look like there's been another home invasion of Hangman, but they were the ones that perpetrated it, because they want Hangman to follow through on, not letting Swerve win the title, or, getting his revenge on Swerve. And it'll all be revealed. And it's like, how could you do this to me? Hangman to the Bucks. And Hangman realizes, oh, they're the common enemy, and I gotta, resolve all this with Swerve, so we can both, go buck hunting, as Swerve said.
Go buck hunting. You and I both agree, Parthi, that the Bucks have to do something extremely dastardly to get this to happen. That would fit the bill. I could see it.
They would never. How dare you make those accusations about them? They're great guys.
Accusations.
Would never. Accusations. FTR coming back. They're gonna make some accusations, I assume, tonight. And then just some fun tag team matches. This will be a fun match. Josh Alexander back in officially in the Callis family, tagging with Takeshita there.
Don't forget, Master P is on tonight. There it is.
That's what I was getting. Yep, Master P.
Yes,
That's gonna be interesting. You know that he owns House of Glory. I found that out today. I had no idea. So he's been involved in wrestling for a long time. So shout out Master P, champion of the game. And then we'll hear from the Hurt Syndicate, which is what I'm.
Wasn't Master P involved with the Rap is Crap angle in WCW? Which, by the way, is the greatest country music song of all time. Yeah, that was Master P and the No Limit Soldiers.
I think so.
Affecting Rednecks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Master P.
Have you ever heard Rap is Crap? Rap is Crap is the greatest country music song of all time, people.
Hey, we were talking about Hurt Syndicate. Speaking of Shelton Benjamin, he had a shout out on the McAfee show from Cena on Monday. It's just not competition, but sometimes they'll bring them up, sometimes they don't. I don't know anymore.
Like MGF says, and I agree with MGF 100%. It's so stupid in this day and age to not to not talk about people who aren't in the company. Like, quit insulting the fans. Like, I agree with them 100%.
Oh, for sure.
Now we don't see the Death Riders in this rundown, but we have to know they're going to be involved in. Given the trios titles coming off the Death Riders and Samoa Joe choking out John Moxley, we have to know that this is going to be leading to Samoa Joe versus John Moxley at Double or Nothing for the AEW World Championship, which I think Moxley's going to get his choke back, so to speak.
In Phoenix, Arizona, by the way.
You gonna be there, Ernie?
No, I'm actually going to be in Atlanta for a baseball tournament.
Shucks. What luck?
But, yeah. We shall see. Should be fun night of wrestling, Dynamite, and then SmackDown Friday to see some more fallout from WrestleMania. But that'll do it for our show, for our panel here. Shout out to our sponsor, Batavia Downs. We'll be back here next Wednesday to break down everything in the week of wrestling. This is Wrestling with Emotion. Have a great night, folks.
Have a good night now.
Yeet.
Yeet.